Welcome to MathLink Academy, where we're connecting the dots. I am Mr. C, and I'm excited to go over this next unit with you. We're talking about decimals, in particular, multiplying and dividing decimals. So let's get started. Multiplying decimals. Multiply decimals using the same procedure as with whole numbers. Count the number of decimal places in both the multiplier and the multiplicand. Begin counting from the last digit on the right of the product and place the decimal point the same number of places as there are both in the multiplicand and also the multiplier. So we'll look at an example of how to multiply decimals. This is our example. And so let's go to our whiteboard to show how to do this particular example. So here's our example. And notice what I did. I put it vertically so it'd be a lot easier for me to multiply. Again, it's like multiplying whole numbers. So let's get started. So in this case, we want to start with the 3. We want to start with the 3 on the bottom here. And when we multiply the 3, we're going to do 3 to every number on the top. And then we're going to use the 5 and multiply to every number on the top. Now, if you had more numbers, you continue with more numbers on the bottom and add them to the top or multiply them to the top. And we'll show you how to do that too. So let's get started. So 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times that is 1. 3 times 4 is 12. We move the 1 up. 3 times 0 is 0. But we add the 1. And 3 times 6 is 18. So that's using the 3, what I did in green, using the 3. Now in blue, I'm going to multiply the 5 next to every number on the top. Now this is important. Before you do that, you should put a 0 under the 6. You do not put your number directly when you start multiplying under the 6. You put a 0 under the 6 to show a place value. Now let's do this. So 5 times 2 is 10. We'll put a 0 there, raise a 1. 5 times 1 is 1 plus 1 is 6. 5 times 4 is 20. Put a 2 up here. And then 0 times 5 is 0. And then plus 2 is 2. 5 times 6 is 30. Okay. And you could double check and see if the numbers are correct that we multiply. Now, once you multiply, you're going to add those numbers that you've written down. So this would be 6, 3, 8, 1, 10, but we'll carry the 1, 2, and 3. Now, what we got to consider now is how many decimal places that we work with from the example. So we have 1 here. Here's a decimal place. That 4, the 1, and the 2. And then we also look at this one on the bottom, the 3 and the 5. So to the right of the decimal, let's count how many numbers are to the right of the decimal, everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so since we start here with our decimal, we're going to move over 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so our decimal will be here, and that will be our final answer. Making sure you put your decimal between the 2 and the 0. And that's how you multiply decimals. Now let's look at another example. So let's say we have 3, 5, 2. And we'll say 35 and 2/10 times, and I'm going to do this a little differently. So let me move over here. 1, 2, 3, and let's put a decimal right here. So this is 1 and 23/100. So I'm going to multiply. So let's go ahead and multiply this. So in this case, notice what we're going to do. We'll start from the 3. We'll put that in blue underneath. And the 3 is going to multiply each of the top numbers. And then we'll do the 2 and then we do the 1. So let's start with the 3. In this case, we have 6, 15, carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, and that gives me 10. So that's using the 3. Okay. Now, let's do the other number, 2. So here's the 2. But remember, before we get started, we have to put a 0 underneath this 6. Now we get started. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1, 6. And then this is 7. And let's do one more. I'm going to put in green. We got to multiply the 1. Now, in this case, we put a 0 under the 0 and also under the 4. Again, it's showing place values. So you do that continually for each number you multiply that's using on the bottom. So we have 2 zeros for this one for the 1. So now we multiply. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 5. 1 times that is 3. And now we're going to add, since we have everything place value correct. So 6, 9, 2, 8, 13, and 4. Now we're not done because we got to count all the numbers or all the values that are on the right of the decimal, the place values. So we got 1 here, 2, and 3. So we got 3 different numbers that's on the right of the decimal, which means when my final answer is, I'm going to move my decimal, which is already here. I'm going to move it 3 places. 1, 2, 3. And so my answer, let me write it clearly, will be this, and then we will circle this as an answer. Notice the decimals between the 3 and the 2. And that's how we multiply decimal values. Now, let's talk about dividing decimals. Dividing using the same procedure as with whole numbers, like we did before with whole numbers. Move the decimal point of the divisor as many places as necessary to make it a whole number. So we want to make the divisor a whole number first. Then we move the decimal places in the dividend the same number of places to the right. So if we move 3 in the divisor, we'll move 3 in the dividend. We'll show you that in a few minutes. Then we divide and place the decimal point in the answer directly above the decimal point in the dividend. So let's do this. Let's get our answer for what we can get as far as dividing. So we're going to divide this number by that other number, which is 52 hundredths. So let's go to our whiteboard and show you how this is done. So here's our problem. And let's write this as a long division. So how we write this, this would be 0.52, and then our dividend would be 0.3380. Now, again, the first step is we're going to convert this 0.52 or 52 hundredth. We want to convert that to a whole number. So we're going to move this decimal 2 places. If we do it there, we're also going to do it here in a dividend. We're going to move it 2 places. So how many places we do in the divisor, we do the same number in the dividend. So in this case, I'm going to rewrite the problem, and you're really going to be dividing 52, how many times it goes into 33, in this case, 0.80. We'll write it like that. So now let's divide. 52 cannot go into 3, cannot go into 33, but we go to the next place. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is put my decimal value where it's located. And since we're looking at the 8, how many times what number we multiply by 52 without going over, that would give us that. So I think I'm going to use 6. I think that's our number. I'm thinking ahead. And so 6 times 2 is 12. And then 6 times 5 is 30. but we have 1 left over, so this would be 312. So you can do this. You could use 7, and notice that 7 would be too big if we use 7 in place of 6, but 6 would be just right for us without going over. Now, once we multiply, we already know we subtract next. By subtracting, this 8 and 2 will be 6. This would be 2. After you do that, you bring down the 0 because we do have a 0. And now we look at 52 into that 260. How many times can we do that? So I think, let me try a number. Let me try 5. So 5 times that is 10. 5 times 5 is 25. Plus 1 is 26. It worked perfectly. And we have a remainder of 0. So our final answer for this problem, I'm going to write it in green, will be 65/100th. 65/100th. And that's how we divide decimals. Now let's look at this problem. Let's set this up as a division problem because it is a division problem, and we're dividing these two decimal values. So we got 0.024, as Lottie would say, and we have this here. Now before we divide, we want to make sure we move those decimal places and make that divisor a whole number. For that to be a whole number, we got to move it 3 decimal places. Again, if I move it 3 here, I got to move it 3 here. So what we'll be looking at, we'll be dividing the 24, how many times it goes into 482.4. Okay, so let's get started. Now we can divide. So first thing we look here, and then we'll do it in blue. 24 cannot go into 4, but it can go into 48. How many times without going over? Is 2. So 2 times that is 48. We subtract. This is 0. Now what we're going to do, we're going to bring down the 2, and we're going to see how many times the 24 goes into 2. Well, in this case, it doesn't, so we have to put a 0 here. Now, one of the things I want to make sure you do is make sure you put your decimal in the right position. See, there's your 0. And once you put that 0, now we bring down the 4. Then how many times we can divide 24 into 24? It'd be 1 time. 1 times 24 is 24. Subtract. In this case, we have a remainder of 0. So our final answer for this particular problem will be 20.1, or you could say 20 1/10. And then we'll circle our answer. So that's how we multiply and also divide decimal values. Again, I hope this lesson helped. You can also look back at this video again or look at some of our resources that we have on our MathLink Academy website. Again, thank you for watching this MathLink video.